our first speaker from Club 4, speaking on topic, It Changed My Perspective. Please welcome Hugh and Sam.
I was born in a very strict family where my parents, they're all high school teachers. And all they care for my whole life is how many marks can I get in my exam. So when I went to university at the age of 18, I want to go as far away place as I can so that I can live on my own. And that place was extremely cold, and in the winter, it can go down to below 20 or 30 degrees. Compared to where I come from, we never experienced any snow. I realized that people living there, they won't be able to take shower on the winter so often because it destroys their skin. When I go back to where I come from, I tell my friends that, people in the northeast, they don't take shower a lot in the winter. And my friends said, wow, they're so dirty, why? And I explained to them, but then they still don't understand. That was the first time that I realized culture shock. It's not about language. It changed my perspective that I never ever judge any person by the superficial experience of phenomenon that I watch. Later, 2 years and 10 months before, I arrived in Australia. And then 1 year later, I joined Rostrum. I realized that a lot of the speech that lots of people delivering is sensational. For example, I open the door and the wind comes from to my face, or I smell that thing and there's sun. When I listen to this kind of speech, I'm always confused. What is this? What do you want to say? Why there's so many details, and what is this comes from, and what is the result? I realized that it's because of me always chasing out for the things that I want to achieve. As Salih did from his previous speech, I never actually concentrate on what I have at this moment, and I never enjoy what this moment is, because I just want to achieve what I want and then get to the next goal and keep running and running all the time. Joining Rostrum and listening to so many speech from different angles, from different perspectives, from different people in different industry and different culture or mindset has changed my perspective. I realized that there's so many wonderful things happening in the world where my previous very single background never ever give me. So I enjoy living here, and all this experience has changed my perspective.
So, from Club 15, my home club, Jerry Dirksen on the topic, the courage to be different.
Good evening to you all, and what a great evening it is. The courage to be different. Have you got the courage to be different? Well, I won't give you my life story with all its troubles, because I'm not going to live long enough to have to worry about it. Each day comes as a great blessing. Some years ago, though, after a life-saving operation, which takes quite a while to recover from, I thought, will I dare to be different? And the answer was, yes. I had always been very careful with my career and my money. Don't spend too much, pay off your house, do all those wonderful, wonderful things that do not add one iota of joy to your life. What will add joy to your life? Dare to be different. And here I was. Even then I was old. I was an old man. And for a while I'd been going to this Harley Davidson shop. And here it was, exactly the bike I wanted. Candy Apple Red. FLSTC. Softail Heritage. what a bike. I sat on it. But I was going to get it at a cheaper price, wasn't I? Because that's how I am. I looked at it and I thought, so much off. And they were really mad about that. And I walked out the door, as you have to do with car salesmen and motorbike salesmen. And he said, no, come back. Final offer. Take it or leave it. He said, we'll take it. And here I was, the shiny, sparkling bike. The dream of my life. Finally I was free. Free and daring to be different. I'd got my motorbike licence on Dad's scooter when I was 18. At the time I was in my 50s. So I had not been on a motorbike for quite some time, you would say. So I said to the sales place, look, I'm not far from here. Can you please take my bike home on the trailer or something? The answer, in short, was no. You screwed us, now we're screwing you. I said, mate, I haven't been on a bike for 30 years. What are you doing to me? You're the one who dares to be different. Do it now. I thought, what will I do? Hopped on the bike, happened to get it into second gear, couldn't change it into any other gear, all the way home from Cannington to Como in second gear. I did not dare to stop, but I made it. And why was I successful? Because I dared to be different. And that was a great turning point in my life. And you know what the bonus is for the Harley Davidson? When you resell them, you get as much back as you paid for them. How good is that? You can be different again and finance the world trip. Dare to be different.
Next up we have Rob from Club 19. And if you heard your food talking to you at dinner, he's going to be able to tell you more about that because his topic is the language of food. Please welcome Rob.
The greatest blessing of being a human is that we get to eat 3 meals a day. Unless, of course, you're on a diet. Then maybe you're down to 2, maybe 1, maybe without carbohydrates and sugar. That's a real problem for me. My partner, my wife, has a visual and photographic memory of food. Every place we've ever been to, she memorizes exactly what we ate, what restaurant. I don't have that memory. But when I'm in the moment, I can immerse myself in food. And through that food, understand the culture of the place and the language of the place, because food has a language to it. This year, we've been very privileged to travel to 4 amazing locations with very distinct food. First, it was Japan. And there's this extremely green, fluorescent green substance called matcha. And if you've never experienced it, it's like a wonder drug, except that it's not a drug. Yes, it's got caffeine. The caffeine has a very long, elongated hit that lasts for hours, and it's become now part of my daily routine. And the matcha ceremony is a spiritual experience. After traveling to Japan to not just to try matcha, later in the year we went to Austria, and in Austria they have the schnitzel. I'm sure you guys have tasted schnitzel, but if you go to Austria, there's something about schnitzel that it teaches you about the culture of Austria and how much affection and love they have for their food. Then we were in Istanbul. And there were many, many beautiful dishes, but the one thing I can remember is the baklava. It's the sweet, pistachio tasted, syrupy dessert, which I would have loved to have had it every day, but that might have been a disaster. And then finally, this year's travels ended in New York. Now, New York is all about big and sugar, and there was some amazing food that gave you a sense of the language and the culture of New York. First, there were the chocolate chip cookies. Now, normally when you're ordering a chocolate chip cookie, there's a basic option. Single chocolate chip, vanilla cookie, But in America, they only have double choc chip. There is no single choc chip. The minimum entry level is double. Then you go to the M&M stores, and there's a queue around the block. And it tells you something about Americans. Everyone's queuing for their favorite color, whether it's a green M&M or yellow, but you've got your favorite color. And then there's the bagel stores. There's a queue literally around the block at 7 a.m. in the morning. And it tells you how big and bold the flavors are. And finally, there was the Strip House, which had a 24-layered chocolate chip cake, which sounds disgusting, but when you're actually eating it with a steak knife, it is delicious. And it tells you all about the richness of America. So there is something about food. It's the language of food, and I encourage you to enjoy each and every one of your 3 meals a day, unless you're on a diet.
From Club 22, we said, do you want to do this? And he said yes. But now his topic's the power of no. Please welcome Lane Andrew.
Do you all want to know the very first word that came out of my mouth when I was a child? No. The very first thing. And how did this come about, you may ask? It came from my mum. That's exactly where I got it from. She always was able to say no and do what was right. And now in a world full of noise, people's opinions, information on social media, just abundance of things out there that we are all forced to perceive and take in. How are we supposed to navigate through this world if we are not able to say no? No is so powerful, because if not for no, you would have to say yes. You would have to say yes to everything that comes your way. And whilst that may be good for certain opportunities, others, definitely not so much. You may be taken advantage of if you're not able to say no. You may not be able to fight for that pay rise at work if you are not able to say no. You may not be able to deviate or stand off or strive away from potential bad behaviours and bad opportunities, be it excessive drugs, alcohol, degenerative behaviour as such. That's taken to the extreme. So there exists the power of no. And it's so important that everyone here today is at least aware of how strong that single word no is. Now you don't have to use it all the time, okay? For me, I may use it a little bit too much, just like my mom. It may get me in trouble sometimes. I may find myself in a little too many arguments. But I'd argue it's far better than the opposite, where you are completely taken advantage of. You're just like a plastic bag floating through the air, having the wind dictate where you go, rather than you taking charge of your own destiny, striving for a direction or something that you believe in, and making the important decisions that adhere to your values and the values of others that you care about. The word no can get you so far. And it's important, like I mentioned, that you don't abuse it. But every now and then, you just got to remember that it is okay to say no.
Okay, next up, Mary Rice from Club 24, speaking on reinvention.
When life becomes a little boring, it's time for reinvention. Quite a few years ago, or maybe 20, our family we were living in a fairly staid suburban life. We thought it might be a good idea to change it up a little bit. we had a conference with our family, our 3 kids. Just putting it out there, don't expect a 14-year-old boy to say, yes, I'd love to move to the Pilbara town of Tom Price with only 5,000 people away from my friends and my life. He lost. The 2 girls, my husband and I, we decided that it was time for a reinvention. We moved to Tom Price, both to do teaching. The school that I'd been in Perth was comfortable. It was easy. I loved teaching. They were just regular children. No real special needs, no difficulty for me to be teaching. Moved to Tom Price, and it was a whole new ball game. What I've noticed about country towns is that you can decide who you want to be, because the people that are in these towns don't know you at all. They don't know any of your family. They know nothing at all about you. So parts of your life and parts of your personality that you would like to hide or to exacerbate, perhaps, can be, you can do this in a new community. And I took the challenge. I really loved reinventing myself. I found I had a real knack for organising things. Hadn't done much of that before, and that seems to have carried over a fair bit into my current life. There's a fantastic festival that happens in Tom Price in August called the, what's its name? The Nameless Festival. And I became the full-time organiser of this event, along with my husband and a few other people. But it was just a wonderful opportunity for our family to have a reinvention of our lives.
On to our next speaker. So they are from Club 34. They're speaking on the topic, the bad times. Please welcome Natasha Clark.
There's a book that my friends and I used to love reading at university called The Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. And it was a book that my friend who taught teaching came home and shared with us. And we can all relate to that. But I'm here to tell you that the bad times are not so bad, because like the yin and the yang, it's really important for us to experience them. As an example, I used to work for Kentucky in Europe, and one of my very bad days was when we stopped in Romania. We were in a very lovely cobblestone streeted area, and we went to buy some CDs. While we were in the store, a whole lot of locals came in, dressed normally, and more came in, and more came in, and as quickly as they came in, they came out, taking my wallet with them. So I learned from that bad experience a lesson. Don't judge a book by its cover. Just because people look like they're meant to be there does not mean that they are not potentially scammers. Now that was a useful lesson, but that was not to be the end of that terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Because later that day, one of the guys on my tour had a very bad reaction. And I learned a lesson. Don't drink bottles of alcohol labelled vodka. That's what he was doing back in his hotel room. And then he had almost like a psychotic break. We called the ambulance and we got help. And so that was another lesson. Later that evening, not wanting to go back to the hotel in a taxi on my own, I decided to stay with him and his wife. They got a bedroom, a bed and a chair. I was allowed to lie down on the gurney in the operating room just outside. It's a psychiatric hospital, and they brought somebody in during the night. And while it was important to get some sleep, it did make me wonder, what if there's a bit of an error and they think I'm here for some surgery? We got out, and that was the end of our terrible, no good, very bad day, the bad times. And as we left that town, and I'm not a singer, and I won't do it now, I must admit, I got on the microphone and I started singing the Angels song, like, we've got to get out of this place. And everybody clapped. So, for the next time you're experiencing the bad times, remember, it's lessons to be learned, whether that's vodka or other things, but it's also memorable and it balances out the good times ahead.
Next up, we have from COP50 on the topic, small actions, big impact. Please welcome Murray.
It's a disaster, Murray. We've got to do something. It's terrible, Mum. What are you doing, Murray? I thought you were on this committee. I thought you were going to do something about it. Well, this person I know very well. She's talking about the environment. She expected more of me on this particular committee I was on to do something about the environment. But I think if we are concerned about the environment or the future, climate change as it is, then I think this notion of small actions, big impact, small actions, big impact. And I think that, sometimes we think, well, what can you do? What can you do? I mean, I believe very much in the maxim, a lot of small drops fill a bucket. So if we actually, all of us, play our own little small part, then we can do something about this impending. I don't think it's going to be a disaster, but I think we're dealing with a climate issue. There's obviously too much carbon dioxide coming up in the atmosphere, and we need to do something about it. So those small actions. Well, what have I been doing? Well, recently we had a council election, and there was a lady on that standing for council, and she was a member of the Urban Green Canopy. She believes in growing more trees. So I thought my small action will be, I will try and help her get elected on the council. So I went around and did a bit of door knocking at various houses, and spoke to the residents there. She was a great person to work with. And that, I felt, was just my small action. I'm not going to stop this catastrophe, but I can do just a little bit, as each of us can. What about planting a few native trees in your property, instead of all that English stuff we're brought up with when we were younger, all those trees? Well, what about the native trees? They require less water. And we know with climate change, we're going to be having water issues. It's going to be less rainfall, and it's going to get hotter. So these plants are going to be more resilient to that kind of change. I even heard a news report the other day of they're doing something in Melbourne. I think it's just behind the Art Council or one of the art buildings, and they're doing a new building there. And this scientist or this horticultural man is actually trying to work out what plants they can plant now which will be resilient to the change in the weather, which is going to occur in about 40 years' time. So my message is, we may think we can't do much, but I'm a great believer in Greta Thunberg. I've read her book. I think she's a wonderful person. She's a small person, but I'm sure she would go along with what I'm saying here today. Little actions can make a big difference if we all do our little actions in regard to climate change.
Okay, our final speaker. From Club 65, sitting at my table, I feel like I've got a few things going from your home club table. We're in for a win. That's what we want. And for COP 65, Cameron McKibben speaking to my amazement.
To my amazement, I met a lady who had survived the Holocaust. The words she said to me were, "When all is known, all is forgiven." These words absolutely blew me away. Knowing what she had been through, knowing what her family had been through over 50 years before, this amazing lady who I had the privilege of growing up with, but never really knowing her backstory until the very end, finally told me that message. And I had never known anybody who was more calm, more peaceful, more resolved in herself and her place in the world. She had grown up in Romania, she had lost her family, she had lived in a hole in the ground underneath the forest, while her tormentors scoured the forest above for her and her family because she was Jewish. And yet, at the very end, my very last conversation with Fela before she died, she said, "Cameron, when all is known, all is forgiven." And to my amazement, I realized that I had been given the very most important thing that I would ever hear in my life. I now have 2 beautiful children, and it's the one thing I say to them time and time again. When you have something that is rancoring you and you don't understand why somebody is saying something or acting in a certain way, it might be your father, it might be your mother, it might be a teacher, it might be your boss. All we need to think is, when all is known, all is forgiven. And that was from the lady who had experienced probably the greatest amount of cause to hold that anger in her heart forever. And yet she showed me an amount of forgiveness that I could barely imagine even exists in this world. And so, if you can take that message through to your life, to your family, and you can imagine that level of forgiveness, when all is known, all is forgiven, you might feel the amount of amazement that I felt and still feel when I remember those words. Because I don't think there's ever been anything that comes even close to that lady and that message that she gave me on that day. She was smoking continuously. Possibly that had a cause with her downfall, but as we played cards, because we'd always play cards together, when I'd go over there, I realised that I was getting a lot more than patience training from that lady. She had given me the greatest thing I would ever hear in my entire life.